Today, I'm pleased to introduce the president of Southern Innkeepers, Richard Delany. He's not only the president, but he also runs one of the greatest hotels in America. I was just there, so I say that with pride, Richard.
Thank you.
And we together collectively are launching this series called Lessons in Leadership. The series is developed for all of you. You who are going to lead us to our future. And we hope that you find the insights of today's session and many more valuable. So Richard, could you introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit about your beautiful hotel?
Absolutely. Thank you, Elizabeth. Yes. So my name is Richard Delany. I'm the president, managing director at Old Edwards Hospitality Group. We are located in Highlands, North Carolina, which is about 2 hours north of Atlanta and about an hour and a half south of Asheville. We're known for our amazingly cool summers. We're in the 70s and 80s during much of the summer, and also known for our amazing hiking, waterfalls, golf. And we're situated in the historic town of Highlands with fantastic shopping, boutique shops, restaurants, and bars. We have 3 hotels, 5 restaurants. We have 2 golf courses, a brand new par 3 12-hole course, Glen Cove, and then we also have a 25,000 square foot European spa.
That's amazing, Richard. And as I mentioned, I was recently there. I learned so much from you and your wonderful staff when I was there that were really such wonderful hospitality operators, professionals, maitre d's, and hoteliers. But clearly the job you have now is not where you started. Can you walk us through your career?
Sure, absolutely. So I actually started washing dishes when I was 14 years old, I think, like many of us in the business, with my best friend, Steve Glenn, at the Yacht Club in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I think I was making $2.10 an hour. And although probably not totally legitimate for 2 14-year-olds to be working until 1 a.m. washing dishes, I think it was the beginning of learning a strong work ethic for both of us. And at 14 was fun to have some extra spending cash. I graduated to Burger King at age 16, where I got to wear the wonderful polyester brown outfit. And back then, we didn't have computers in the fast food arena like we do now. So I was actually on a microphone calling the orders to the back of the employees where they would make the food. So anyway, spent a couple years at Burger King. And then I went to UNC after college, and I worked my way through college. I was in hospitality the whole time. I was a server, bartender, busser, host, you name it. I think I've done it in the hospitality business. At that point in time, I had the hospitality bug pretty badly and loved working with people and enjoyed it. And I wanted to get into hotels. UNC did not have a hotel program of any kind. So I actually decided to go back to England, where I was born, and dove headfirst into the hospitality hotel profession, and worked at a wonderful small luxury hotel called Homewood Park. I took a advertised position of general assistant, which I thought sounded pretty cool because it almost sounded like general manager. And then once I got there, I suddenly realized that the general assistant meant I generally assisted in everything that you could do in a hotel. We check people in, we check people out, we help the housekeepers, we serve breakfast, lunch, dinner. And I learned it really from the ground up, and had a wonderful couple of years there. Came to a point where I needed to decide whether I wanted to stay working my way in the profession or possibly go to hospitality school. Neither one is right or wrong, and the great thing I think about our profession is in this day and age you can still do both. So I'd already have several years under my belt, so decided to stay working in hotels. I returned to the United States and worked in a small 5-star 5-diamond property just outside of Chapel Hill. Went back to England for 4 years, ran another beautiful hotel over there, and then took over as GM down at Sea Island Resorts before coming up here to Highlands.
What an amazing career. And I love listening to these stories because, listen, like you at 14, I also started as a dishwasher. So I think we all started somewhere and really worked our way up learning the business of being a hotelier. And that's what's so wonderful is that There's careers that are so rich and ripe and exciting to have. You've been able to have an adventure in this world. You've been able to travel. You've been able to meet so many people. And where you've landed is truly in one of the most beautiful places, I think, in the country. So truly that your career has blossomed, and it's good to hear that.
We feel blessed.
I think about, all of the times and the leadership positions that you've had. And as I think back over even my own time in hospitality, I look and I say there's kind of four key areas of hospitality that you have to master. And I'll call those four key areas leadership, management, technical skills, and relationship. Could you cover each one of those and what it means to being a general manager, a leader, a managing director in the hospitality space?
Sure. So I was lucky enough to have two mentors in my life, both of whom I've worked for a considerable amount of time. My first one, his name was R.B. Fitch. I worked for him for 16 years, and now Art Williams, who I've worked for about 14 years. I try to take, I think to be a good leader, you take different attributes from other leaders and managers you work with and adapt them and make them your own, and try and look at all the good aspects from these leaders, and create your own leadership style. RB, for instance, was gave me a chance in when I was 23, 24 years old. Probably many other people would not have given me that opportunity at that age. He always believed in young people and gave them the opportunity to grow, to fail, and thus to succeed. And he would always push me to do more and always get out of my comfort zone. And I think that was a great thing to learn from him as a leader. He would often choose the harder working, younger manager over the seasoned veteran, giving them a chance and knowing that they were hungry, and that's why I believe and always do in our situation, whenever we have young but managers with great potential, we try to give them an opportunity before looking outside the company and looking elsewhere. So important to leadership. Well, another thing I learned from RB, which was amazing, and I think is got to be true of leaders today, is not once in 16 years working for him did I ever hear him raise his voice. And I know that's not always the situation, although I think things are changing. He didn't need to. He knew how to coach. We respected him like a dad, and he used his words to make the points whenever necessary. And there was never any confusion about where you stood with him. But I think that's key, and I think as I've grown and learned, I realized that if your employees are going to listen to you and you're going to be a great leader, you have to learn to communicate them in a way that they're going to listen. My current owner, Art Williams, had similar leadership traits, but he really excels in management by encouragement. He was an ex-football, high school football coach. And we've all heard the saying, you need to pat someone on the back 8 times before you want to effectively coach them on something that on a performance issue. But you got to love on them. You've got to pat them on the back. You've got to tell them they're doing a great job, so they'll listen to you as a leader when the time comes. He lives that motto. Also is just loves pushing up people, again, pushing them out of their comfort zone, making them do something. And I like the phrase, I love the phrase, I didn't coin it, but catch them doing something right. So many managers and leaders that, think their job is to go around and look at what's wrong instead of looking at what's right. And there's so much more right going on. So catch them doing something right and then tell them and celebrate it. That's sort of my management leadership philosophy. You mentioned the technical side of things, which obviously is becoming incredibly difficult these days as so much is changing in our business, especially in the hospitality profession with technology, social media, digital advertising, and now we have the challenges of staffing and labor shortages. It's sort of daunting to keep up with. And again, as a leader, I think you have to realize that you cannot do it all. And I believe firmly in my advice is to make sure you surround yourself with great people and great leaders, maybe smarter than you, that can help and specialize in these different areas that we're tackling these days. And then you've got to empower them, believe in them, and trust them to do their job. So that technically that's sort of where we are these days with so much going on. But like I said, surround yourself with great people.
So it's interesting. I took some notes as you were speaking, and I think that you brought together those attributes so eloquently. And here's what I heard in summary is that great leaders inspire you. Great managers allow you to execute. Great technicians know their job better than anyone.
Yeah.
And relationships is what holds all of this together like the glue, right? It's all important in everything that we do. So those were great examples.
Relationships are the most important, and I think you can make it very simple, and it's what I tell our employees, and we try to live this day in and day out with our relationships with our employees, is treat them like family, because that's who they are. Just the amount of time we spend with them, and I think if you look at, as a leader, if you look at your team that way as family, you're going to be successful.
Yeah, I agree. As on any journey, you have times of great successes and you have times where things are challenging and not easy. Can you share some of those times with us and how you got through them on both ends of the spectrum?
Sure. I think probably a successful time, it didn't start off necessarily that way, is when I first came up here to Highlands. Melissa, my wife and I came up 14 years ago, and we took over a hotel that was running 38% occupancy annually. The town itself closed from November through April. It was very seasonal. Everyone told us that we'd be lucky to get above 60, we'd be lucky to get to 60% occupancy, and that the town would always be seasonal, and that's just the way it was. So Melissa and I love a challenge. Our team loved a challenge, and it took determination and pride and a lot of hard work, but we put together a great team. We worked closely with the town, and we decided to basically change the perception and culture of what Highlands was, who we were, and that there was no more shutting the gates during the wintertime. Highlands is now a vibrant year-round community, strong, great economy. We continue to grow, and we now run well over 90% occupancy annually at the hotel. And I wasn't as proud for Melissa and I as much as our team that believes so much in this, and the town, and that we now employ over 500 people, help support their families, and these families can now rely on a year-round viable business, which was not the case 14, 15 years ago. So that's been a success that we continue to celebrate, and we continue to grow. I think if I look back, probably as far as frustration and pain, because it's so recent, I would turn to what we've done the last 2 or 3 years during the pandemic, which was something that I think all of us in this profession obviously have never seen anything like, and it was very frustrating trying to learn what this pandemic was, how to guide this company through the pandemic, how to make sure our 500 employees were taken care of, and we had their families to think of. So it was pretty terrifying, and it was frustrating because every day we had different regulations from the state and the federal level telling us what to do and having to change things, and we had restricted occupancy, and we had to constantly adapt on the fly. We had, as leaders, had to communicate messages to our employees that some of them didn't like. We had to put in policies that were not popular. So I sort of look back on it, and as frustrating and as painful as it was, my executive team and I sit down sometimes now and look at it as almost a master's degree in leadership and management. Anyone any leader or manager in any profession that went through that I think probably learned so much. And it was about compassion and empowerment and being confident and great communication because it was changing daily. Again, I'm glad we're on this end of it, but that was a frustrating and challenging time to overcome.
You bring up such an important point that, now that we are moving through this pandemic, soon this will be hindsight for us, right? Soon this will be hindsight. But any leader that's watching this, you have received your PhD in hospitality, just having gone through this, and you will always have that. And I guarantee that years from now, you will say, well, let me tell you what happened in the pandemic of 2020, 2021, and all that we had to go through. So it's
Absolutely. And you could almost do a case study in it. And I'd love to do that. I mean, you just think about not only were we challenged communications with our employees and adapting, but even the dollars and cents and how do you run a restaurant at 50% capacity to it efficiently and to its max? How do you how do you deal with restricted occupancy in the hotel rooms? So many things that we had never ever encountered before were brought to the table, and you and me and all of our colleagues had to deal with this, and it made us better leaders without a doubt, I think.
So, Richard, do you have a few leadership lessons that you could share? Just those few that you would recommend any leader at any level know these. These will help you.
I do actually have a few. I'll tell you what, a friend of mine, good friend, Steve Glenn, who I actually started washing dishes with when I was 14, emailed me about 6 months ago, and he said that his son was taking his first management position. And he asked me this, he said, knowing what you know now, what would you wish you knew when you had first become a manager? Which I love. So I started thinking back. And so I put some things together that I'll read for you and, take them as they are. Number one, titles are overrated, and so are business cards. So many young managers today, and when I was young, think that their position, their titles, and the business card makes them a good leader. Wrong. Being a selfless and passionate coach makes you a good leader. Most employees will gravitate to a good leader. Your staff should want to follow you and work hard for you. You should not tell them they have to. Two, nothing beats the education of pressure, time, and experience. I don't care how much money you spent on your education. You are not ready to lead unless you spend time in the trenches and learn it. Three, give your team responsibility and empower them, and then let them go and hold them accountable. You must let them go and let them fail. They can learn more from failure than success, and they will fail, and so will you. You learn what you did wrong, adapt, and move on. Four, young managers think they need to hold all the keys and all the passwords, and that everything must come through them and all decisions must be made by them. Wrong. Again, you will fail. Share the keys and much of the responsibility. Work yourself out of a job. And number five, this is a huge lesson I've learned, and it took me years to learn this. There's a huge difference between a great leader and a subject matter expert. And a lot of the times we confuse the two. We tend to over promote subject matter experts because they're good at what they do and because they stand out, but that does not mean that they are a good leader or manager. They just are really good at a specific skill set. Make sure you can tell the difference between the two, otherwise you'll lose the skill set and have a failed manager. And there's actually a great book you can read about that called Play a Coach, how to shift from subject matter expert to leader and get the best results. Six, be kind, treat your team like their family because they are. Next, have fun. If you're not having fun as a leader, do something else. So those are my points to Steve's son to hopefully get him off and take some of the things I've learned along the way. Just some little tidbits.
Those were amazing. Thank you so much for your insights and your inspiration, and quite frankly, for your leadership.
Thank you.
As I speak to anyone that's watching this today, I want you to understand that over the next 10 years, there'll be a seismic shift in hospitality leadership. And so those of you that are watching this, you will be the leaders of the future. Our goal is to give you some of our wisdom that we've learned over time. and pass that on to you so that you'll succeed, so that you will make us all proud, because truly you are leading the greatest profession in the world.
Agreed.
So we'll be developing more of these sessions in the near future, and we hope that you'll join us. Pass this message on, share it, use it, and be grateful and thankful that you're a hotelier. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a
Elizabeth,
great
thank
day.
you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so much.
Richard.